format that we've had for these ward meetings is really opening up the conversation to anything you want to cover specifically. It's a good opportunity for us to assess what we're doing well and where we can improve, what types of resources we've been effective with, where we've not been effective, and the goal is to really have a kind of a candid conversation. I know that a lot of the concerns will focus around policing issues, so I'll open it up to questions. And in the absence of questions, we'll turn it over, of course, to our council people if anything they want to say. But does anybody want to start the conversation on anything specific overall? This is never a shy bunch. All right. Jason, go. The question is regarding an open door policy, and do we consider that the administration has an open door policy as it relates to communication? I think we're very accessible. I think that we're accessible via constituent concerns. We've staffed up in the Resident Response Center. I think that if you want to email or access me personally, I'm very responsive on that. I think anybody would recognize that it is impossible in any of our capacities to meet with 260,000 residents individually. But if you have an individual concern, I think that we are accessible and generally fairly good at responding to those in a responsive way.
Well, I like to be able to sit down with you for the last 3 years. I have been communicating. You used 27 of my points and it was very effective, and I appreciate it. But again, I wanted to sit down with you physically and speak to you as one Marine to another.
Okay, Jason. I will follow up with you after.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Fair. Yeah. We'll work our way back. We'll start here with the gentleman, and then we'll go to you.
Hi, my name is Steve Nardi. Looking at this Ward F development update, and I just wanted to know, is this up to date? Is this going forward? I've heard that there's a remediation problem.
On the City Hall annex. Marcus, do you want to join us up here if you have insight? Yes, it actually is going to formally close any day. It is moving forward. They started, my understanding, is doing some site work. That is starting and that is moving forward. We actually had a meeting on it today. I don't know if there's anything additional you want to add.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically working on making closing both on the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency side as well as on the City Hall side. So that project is going to be moving forward pretty soon.
The actual construction?
Yes.
Yeah, the actual construction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. His question was regarding the City Hall Annex. That is a $20 million project at the hub. Our belief is that by moving a lot of the City Hall offices there and investing there, it's going to help energize an area that's been neglected for a long time. There were a lot of obstacles and challenges in order to move that forward, ranging from getting HUD approval. There were historical loans and debt on that property that had to be cleared up. There was a private landlord, and then there was a city entity as well. So it's taken some time, and I think we're over every single obstacle. He wants to know if the project is moving forward, and the answer is unequivocally yes. The question was about CCTV cameras. Her understanding is that many are not operating properly, and then further down on not operating properly, she understands only 15% are operating in the South District, while 85% are operating in the East District, and she wanted to know why, correct? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the Public Safety Director.
Thank you. The CCTV cameras in general are a problem for our entire time here. The problem was that there were 3 separate systems that were put in under different economic grants, and then they were all turned over to the city. So the 3 systems are not linked together, can't talk to each other, and all have individual problems. So the ones in the east don't break as much as the ones in the south. That may be a function of who put them in or the equipment that was used at the time. The bottom line is, we've been dealing with it for about 2 years, trying to put Band-Aids on it, trying to fix it, and we've reached the point where we've said, let's start almost over. Because the cameras, by the way, were put in with economic development money into economic development zones, and no one ever considered where crime was when they put the cameras in. They just put them wherever someone was willing to pay for them. So we are actually in the middle of a project now where we are taking the cameras, we're looking at the corners that have no coverage, the corners we're comparing it to where crime occurs, and we're going to be moving and putting in a whole new system and asking the council either in this year or next year's capital budget to fund it.
I would just echo this sentiment. One of the goals for this year is to overhaul. We've had several vendors in there to overhaul the entire system. We had last week, in addition to the cameras, we also had vendors in regarding the shot spotter, which is a listening devices to pinpoint where shootings happen ultimately, so that we could better enforce there, because a lot of shootings ultimately don't get reported into the police department. Some is broken. A lot of the technology that we have doesn't work properly.
Yes, hi. My name is Denise Wilkerson, and I'm here on behalf of Pamela Johnson and the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition. And thank you, Mayor, for giving us a few minutes to ask a question or two. We spoke to many members in the community, and they gave us their questions. Firstly, we want to give our condolences to the families of the 2 people who were killed today in the senseless act of violence. We will be praying for that family, and we will be fighting for that family. The first thing we wanted to ask is, we wanted to ask a question about the flow of guns. At the St. Peter's Caught in the Crossfire meeting, Esther Suarez said that a lot of the guns were flowing into the city from South Carolina, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. We wanted to know, what is the city doing to tackle that problem? Are we working with state and federal agencies to kind of resolve that? The other thing we wanted to talk about is this Public Safety Committee. We just wanted more clarity on what it is they're doing, what they're working on, even when their meetings are, because then we can show up and really be active in the process. We also want to know if they're working on the inevitable increase in crime that we know will occur when the weather gets hot. The other thing we wanted to talk about was information and the flow of information around crimes in the city. We do believe if we know a little more about what happened, we would be able to be engaged as a community to help you fight that crime. And so the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition put in an Oprah request to really understand who is the true owner of the store on Ocean Avenue and Van Nostrand. We haven't heard anything back, not even a confirmation that the request was received. We truly believe that part of fighting crime is shutting down businesses that are housing illegal activity, which fosters an environment for violence. If a business is a part of the problem, they should be shut down. We won't do it in any other community. We don't want to do it here. The Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition is really committed to eliminating crime in the city. We are on the ground working with the community hand in hand, and we believe if we couple that with the access to the information that you have and the resources that the city has, that we can tackle this problem. And so we want to openly request that you work with the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition to get the job done. Thank you, Mayor.
Let me first touch on a tragic situation this morning.
Yes.
We had 2 Jersey residents deceased. What looks to be is a domestic violence dispute. An individual turned his gun on a partner and then subsequently took his own life. So in a park on the border of, on the south side of Jersey City, on the border of Bayonne and Jersey City. So a very sad situation. Let me start with the flow of guns from North Carolina and Pennsylvania. New Jersey has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. We work very closely with our prosecutor. She's been terrific, Esther Suarez, in working for stiffer penalties. As it relates to the broader issue state by state, those are things that we lobby at the federal level for. We've been engaged in it, but we don't have direct control over that ultimately. It is a large problem. I could tell you as an example, 2 months ago when we made, we had 11 arrests on a weekend for gun charges. Half of them happened to be juveniles, right? So the access to guns is very significant and very disturbing, and most of it comes from outside of this area ultimately. I'm going to turn it over to the director on the Public Safety Committee portion in a second. As it relates to involvement on the Anti-Violence Coalition, Pamela would know that we've been actually very proactive in including her in everything that we do. We just started a youth council because one of the byproducts of these meetings was that we wanted to have the youth more involved. It was actually feedback from the community that we could get here and talk to each other, and if you're not having or the effective outreach into younger people, you're missing a huge population. So we've put all stakeholders together. She has been an active part of that. They had their first meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, actually, and so she's been involved in all of that. But it's going to take several meetings. Like I said, they're working towards that. Let me turn it over to the Public Safety Director.
Yeah, the Public Safety Committee, we meet the first Tuesday every month in my office, 7 o'clock in the evening. Anybody who wants to attend can attend, but you wouldn't be a voting member of the committee or making a suggestion. The ACLU used to come all the time, they stopped coming. To be fair, we've had several members who are not as enthusiastic as participating, and we've already recommended to the mayor and his chief of staff that they consider alternates for the upcoming year. But that's any committee. Every year you need to freshen it up and bring new people in. But we meet, 7 o'clock now. 2 suggestions that the committee made. One was that we do some daytime meetings with the police department, and others that we specifically start inviting different communities in to attend the meetings and find out what their concerns are. So that may change the time. So I recommend if you'd like to come, you just reach out to my office at the end of the month and find out exactly when and where the meeting will be for the following month.
Fernandez, I'm sorry that I come to this ward. I've been following you. Don't you know that I've been following you? And actually, I'm very happy that you taking me today, actually. My question on you is today very simple. You're saying at the beginning you have an open door policy, but you can answer me this question. Why does it take so long, you lawyers, you people, to answer to a damage that you did to a property or to resolving it? This is over nearly 6 months. My house is destroyed. 3/4 of the house has no walls. I've been in the city hall 5 days. I was at your office door. I spoke to 3 members of your council, man, the president. Everyone says to my lawyer, we're coming back to you. And then nothing happened. Time goes by, my house is more destroyed, my legal bill's going higher. I have to change all my life with my wife. Last time you're using the police as a police force to remove me from the meeting before the meeting started, before I say something. So I ask you, what is this speaking about open policy? When you're not answering the citizen. I'm paying taxes like everyone else. My name is Fernandez.
I know.
But you have to answer to me.
Okay.
So I answer you why you are so incompetent to answering to these questions.
Okay, so I will explain, because you've asked at several other meetings, and if you ask in this manner, I have no problem answering you. My understanding, I respect it, okay, my understanding is that the city's building department has levied significant fines over illegal construction at your place, and you are in litigation with the city. So it is my place not to intervene on community meetings on that point. You need to sort it out with the building department, as does every single resident. That's the process on that. And you may not like the process, I understand that. You may not think it's the right process, but that is the process for 250,000 people, and you cannot come into a council person's office or the mayor's office and expect that to be corrected. So that's where we are.
Because people of color, it has been proven that we are in a state of economic Jim Crow. Now, I'm speaking out tonight because I need to try and get, well, I tried before now, so let's take out try. The operative word here, phrase is here. I need to get some stats, some numbers on what has gone on prior to this. And what we're going to do moving forward. Now, here we go again, the Croson study team that was in place. I think it was needless for us to have another team of people studying the Croson study. The Croson study went forth. It was a lot of information that didn't just happen overnight. It also gave us remedies. So, you ladies, I now defer to you.
Well, you couldn't really just implement them after there was actually nothing happening for the last 20 years. So policy and law had to be put in place because none of that existed in order to move forward with the plan. So we had to do that first after pulling apart the Croson study. We put together a policy and we put together a plan.
Councilwoman, these questions, basic questions. I love Jersey City, but I'm really mainly concerned about water. One for Commissioner Shea. You said you was going to have an office here.
in this community during the election. Gary, you said, Paul, you can hold me accountable for Ward F. Ward F didn't do you real good in the election, so I don't know if that's why we're still where we are. They call our McDonald's Smackdowns, where your office is to be, it's just a reentry area where it's just, you know, it is what it is. There's supposed to be City Hall coming here in that area, annex, but our community is still ravaged with crime, drugs. You said that there would be community involvement with neighborhood block associations, and people would come out, and my son Khalil would know that his name is Jeffrey, and that this officer's name over here, he might know his nickname. That's not happening. The same thing is going on as it was all the way back as far as Schindler, Kunze, all of that. Right now, I need you to give me an answer as to whether Jersey City was just a stepping stone to the governor, whether you're really concerned about Jersey City, why we went from the deputy's office being at MLK to a police recruiting office to a police car that's never manned there, parked there 24/7, and our community is still being plagued with the same issues. And here we are, 2016, saying the same thing we said in 2003. Now, here we are at a community meeting again, asking the same questions. Here we are being told the same thing. We have to be trained for this. I'm so tired of being trained for this. I've been doing this for over 30 years. How can I be here in this community, a building come up over there? I don't want any work from the city. I'm not asking the city for any jobs. I'm speaking about contracts right now, but I'm not asking for contracts. I make my own way. What I'm saying is, if a building comes up and they say, oh, you're not qualified and you're not trained and you have to be trained, so this is not a prejudiced statement or anything I'm about to say. But we have other ethnicities that can't even speak proper English that will be on the job, and everyone on the job is not even from here, but yet they're trained properly in construction protocol, but we're not.
Let me start by saying that there is a shared responsibility, okay? And if you're looking for government to solve every component that you pointed to, I think that you're not being realistic about what government's role is. We share responsibility. I'll tell you tonight, as a matter of fact, we got calls from several people that this meeting wasn't publicized and we needed to cancel it or maybe reschedule it, right? And my response happens to be exactly the same thing that I'm saying today, is that there's a shared responsibility. If it's in the Jersey Journal, if it's posted online, if it's on Facebook, at some point you have to meet us halfway. You can't say, well, I didn't know about that. As it relates to resources, specifically in Ward F, I can't tell you about correcting everything that's been wrong in the city for decades, and that's going to change overnight or that's going to change in 2 years. It's not going to happen is the realistic component of that, but it's going to take a little bit of time because it's taken a lot of time to get into this situation. But if you look at our budget, which is the best indicator of where we are spending our money and what's important to us, there is a disproportionate amount of public dollars that we are investing on the south side of the city. Now, you could say that I don't feel it or it's not moving fast enough, but you can't say that we're not putting our resources there. Every single officer in the last class that we had, every single one of them, went to the south and the west, onto walking posts. Were the walking posts perfect in how they interacted with the community? The answer is no. And we've been working on that to educate them and work with them a little bit better. But it doesn't change the fact that we are putting the resources there. The City Hall Annex, as it relates to moving offices there, is the single biggest investment in any ward as it relates to a government structure. And we're putting it in Ward F. It has nothing to do with who voted for me or who didn't vote for me, because, as you say, we're investing massive resources into Ward F. It's a $20 million project, moving a lot of city resources there. The reason we are doing that is because we couldn't attract private sector, so we figured the city would lead from the front.
Course, but I want to point out that there has been a shooting or stabbing within 4 blocks of that spot every year for the last 9 years. And I want to point out that if you look at that area, if you walk down that street like I do every day with my son, there's a shuttered building. There's the factory that's covered in graffiti. There's that giant empty lot, probably the most valuable empty lot in New Jersey. The giant empty lot behind the light rail parking lot at Liberty State Park, light rail stuff. So this has been going on for decades. These buildings just getting in worse and worse shape, while these property owners sit on this property waiting until they can make the most money they can possibly make. But in the meantime, what we have is an area with a lot of vacant lots, a lot of decrepit, falling down, dangerous buildings. Looks like a good place to commit a crime. So what can be done to make these owners do the right thing in our community and make these buildings safe? The one building, the factory, is full of water. It's a mosquito and raccoon factory.
What's the address of that one?
That's the one that's that is where are all the police cars and cameras today?
Okay, 125.
125 on, thank you.
Okay.
It becomes a real hazard in the summer when pests become out of control. Homeless people make their home in there, and that's tragic that they have no place else to go, but certainly it's dangerous. The empty lot, of course, across the street is full of trash and garbage. So it just looks like a part of the city that nobody cares about. And when you have a section of town that nobody cares about, that's where people go to commit crimes.
Bergen Lafayette area, right behind Liberty State Park, which happens to be probably some of the best real estate, as you know, as you live there, in the entire city, ultimately. A couple key things about what you mentioned. First, again, I can't correct what's happened for decades. I can tell you what we've started to do in order to change the course in a significant way. First, on 125 Monitor, we are in litigation and condemnation proceedings on that property to wrestle that away from that developer who's taken advantage of that. That has been moving from our standpoint for the better part of the last year. That is not an overnight fix. There were issues as it relates to the adjacent property on 100 Monitor and the development that was there as well. There was disputes with the community group and the developer there. It's taken the better part of 2.5 years to get everybody on the same page there as well. There's a condemnation list that the city has implemented as it relates to the 1-family and 2-family houses. The laws allow us to start condemnation proceedings on those as well, and designating smaller developers, affordable housing, in order to move those properties forward once they're in neglect. For the first time, we are starting that as well. The first 25 properties, it's called the APRA list. If you want to get access to that list, it's available for the redevelopment agency, or getting Marcos, the deputy mayor, who's at the point person on this. Those are going through the process as well. Many of them are near you. So, the bridge connecting Jersey Avenue, that bridge will start construction this spring. Another component as it relates to creating better access and linkage between the two communities, between Bergen Lafayette and the downtown area. So I happen to think that, a lot of the things that we are doing specifically for your neighborhood, is going to have a really meaningful impact long term.
Director Shea, I am the property manager of the MLK where McDonald's is located, and I'm not sure the name you called it, but I see it as a lot of things, and I see it as an open-air drug market. I'm there every single day, and I'm watching what's going on. 7 a.m., the manager, she's about 5'0", maybe 2 inches taller, shorter than me, and she is petrified every morning to open her McDonald's, because when she opens up in the morning, at least 60 people beat her in. Now, I'm excited about the City Hall Annex coming in. I was actually one of the people that went out to City Hall to actually speak on behalf. I was there the other day with doing soil tests as we speak, testing the soil to see exactly what and how, large of a structure we can build. But I think with the weather slowly breaking, I think it's the right time to get out there and stop what's going on, because it protects not only us as workers at the City Hall Annex, but the customers who visit there every day, along with all of the commuters. Thank you.
So I'm well aware of the problems at the McDonald's, the Annex. What I can tell you is over the last 2 years, we've made a number of arrests there. What we recognize is, arrests aren't enough. Going in narcotics, going in and making arrests. With the court system the way it is, a lot of these guys get out very quickly. We recognize as a department that we have to get that police presence there, that steady foot patrol. The mayor recognizes that, and that's why hopefully you've been starting to see foot patrols in that area. As they start to increase the number of patrols, the mayor hasn't touched on it yet, but there are over 60 recruits in the academy right now. There's 3 separate classes. They're coming out June, July, and August. Once those recruits become police officers and come on the street, we'll be able to make our posts smaller and have a more significant presence in a smaller area. The hub obviously is one of the areas that we really want to focus on. So I'm sure you are well aware of it. There's been a number of arrests from McDonald's. We tried to work with the management there. They are very cooperative. It's just as frustrating for us right now as far as we arrest them, they're back on the street. But with the walking patrols, as they start increasing towards the summer, I feel very confident that we'll be able to address that.
Jermaine, the director says we have somebody there 4 to 12, as you know. We'll have somebody there earlier starting for the shifts going forward. So we're going to post on the city website the application process to sit on the police review board. If you're interested in doing that, we're going to ask you to submit that in there. We're going to also set a deadline on that, so that'll be on there too. Jason Berg, you're going to email me on a meeting. Carolyn, you need statistics. I got to get you in. You're got to get involved in that youth council. If there's anybody else who wants to be involved in the youth council, Joyce, if you're interested in getting the information specifically on the Croson study report, you can grab Joyce at the end here today. We will add 24 hours to the McDonald's police presence, as you touched on as well, regarding Jermaine, walking post, and then Laverne, you and I have a meeting followed up. We're going to be here for the duration. If you have additional meetings, you could grab us. I thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you.